In the courtroom, Judge Raymond Caldwell and everyone present assumed she was just a bewildered elderly woman until she calmly presented her bar card and unraveled the entire case before their eyes. "Do you understand the charges against you, or do we need to slow this down a bit?" Judge Caldwell's voice carried a smug edge as he leaned back in his high-backed chair, arms crossed, peering down at the elderly woman standing alone at the defense table. His tone was the same he used for brash defendants who thought they could outtalk him. But this wasn't a cocky young troublemaker. This was a 72-year-old woman in a faded gray cardigan and sturdy orthopedic shoes, standing tall with her hands gently clasped over a worn leather handbag. Her name was Evelyn Marie Thompson, charged with obstruction, disorderly conduct, and resisting arrest during a chaotic protest 2 weeks earlier at Riverside City Hall. The prosecutor, Nathan Wells, barely 30, with polished shoes and the confidence of someone rarely challenged, glanced at the gallery with a grin. A few spectators chuckled softly. The bailiff smirked. Even the stenographer's lips twitched. Evelyn said nothing. Judge Caldwell tapped the file in front of him. "Says here you pushed an officer and incited the crowd to resist dispersal orders. Big talk for someone your size." A ripple of laughter followed. He glanced over his glasses. "No attorney, I take it?" Evelyn spoke at last, her voice steady and low. "No, Your Honor. I'll be representing myself." Nathan's head tilted, as if he'd misheard. "Ma'am, you're aware this is a criminal proceeding? You're facing serious charges." Evelyn didn't flinch. "I'm well aware. Would you like to see my bar card?" A pause, then snickers, as if she'd meant something else. But Evelyn reached into her handbag, slow and deliberate, and produced a laminated card, edges slightly yellowed. She placed it on the table and slid it forward. Caldwell squinted, then leaned closer. It read, State Bar of California, Attorney Evelyn M. Thompson, bar number 129804, admitted June 17, 1983. The room fell silent. Evelyn adjusted her glasses. "I earned my law degree from Howard in '82, passed the bar the next summer. 12 years as a public defender in Chicago, 8 more on civil rights cases here in California." No one moved. "I retired in 2003, she added, "but kept my license active. Just in case." Judge Caldwell shifted in his seat. Nathan cleared his throat, but said nothing. Evelyn met the judge's gaze. "Before this courtroom decides my fate, I'd like to correct the record. I wasn't leading a protest. I was trying to calm it. There's a difference, and I intend to prove it, point by point." Her voice didn't waver, each word precise, measured. The bailiff glanced at the judge. Caldwell picked up her bar card again, as if it might dissolve in his hands. But Evelyn stood steady, as if she'd been in this exact spot 1,000 times before because she had. Nathan spoke next, his voice tighter. "Your Honor, we can't verify this without official." "It's real," Evelyn cut in. "I have more credentials in this bag if you'd like to see them." Nathan fell silent. Judge Caldwell hesitated, then said, "Very well. The court recognizes the defendant as representing herself." A quiet buzz of confusion and awe passed through the gallery. Evelyn gave a small nod, not here to entertain, but to remind the room that appearances could deceive. And Judge Caldwell wasn't prepared for what she'd reveal next. The courtroom hadn't recovered. Judge Caldwell sat straighter now, watching Evelyn with newfound respect, devoid of his earlier sarcasm. Nathan, once smug, now looked like he'd walked into an ambush, his jaw tight, eyes darting to the judge for support. Evelyn adjusted the microphone. "I'd like to begin by addressing the prosecution's claims, starting with the body cam footage, or rather, its absence." Nathan straightened. "Your Honor, the footage from Officer Brantley's body camera was deemed irrelevant due to a battery malfunction. It's in the report." Evelyn turned slightly toward the jury. "A battery malfunction that began the moment officers arrived at the protest and ended when I was cuffed. Convenient, isn't it?" She paced slowly, thoughtfully, not for show but with purpose. 3 officers are listed in the arrest report. Only 1 body cam was reviewed. The second malfunctioned, and the third's footage was, what did the report say? Never uploaded due to an administrative error. She stopped before the jury box, hands folded. "Yet the report includes full transcripts of what I allegedly said, without audio to back it up." Judge Caldwell looked at Nathan. "Mr. Wells, is that accurate?" Nathan cleared his throat. We submitted the available materials, Your Honor. The absence of footage doesn't negate the officer's sworn testimony. Evelyn didn't pause. Then let's discuss that testimony. Officer Brantley claimed I raised my fist, shouted, "Push forward," and resisted arrest by locking arms with another protester. I've submitted 6 witness statements saying otherwise. All were present. All say I stood between the crowd and police, asking people to back up. She pulled a folder from her bag and placed it on the table. I've also requested a subpoena for Officer Brantley's prior complaints 3 related to misconduct at public gatherings, all quietly dismissed. The gallery stirred. Nathan objected. Irrelevant unless those complaints led to a conviction. Evelyn's voice sharpened. Patterns matter, Mr. Wells, especially when it's the same behavior repeatedly. The judge raised a hand to quiet the room. Let's keep it focused, Ms. Thompson. She nodded, then lifted a second file. I also want to address the prosecution's photograph, Exhibit C, showing me mid-step, surrounded by police. They claim it shows me moving toward the officers, preparing to resist. She held up a magnified copy. But if you zoom in, my palms are up, open, facing outward, a universal sign of de-escalation. She looked at the jury. You don't march toward armed police with raised hands unless you're trying to stop something worse. The room was silent, no laughter now. Nathan tried to recover. Regardless of gestures, the defendant refused a lawful order to disperse. Evelyn turned to him. What lawful order, Mr. Wells? The arrest record mentions an order given by Officer Brantley at 6:32 p.m. I have a time-stamped photo showing I was already cuffed by 6:28. She let that sink in. So the order was either given late or never given at all. Judge Caldwell shifted, visibly uncomfortable. Nathan didn't speak. Evelyn took a breath. If there's no audio, the timeline's inconsistent, the footage is missing, and the testimony contradicts witness statements. What's left to build a case on? She wasn't smug, just tired, like someone who'd fought these battles too many times but knew the playbook better than anyone in the room. Then Evelyn pulled out something unexpected, video evidence that rewrote the case. Evelyn slid a USB drive across the table. This, she said, was recorded by a college student, Marcus Delgado, filming from the second floor of a parking garage across from City Hall. I've submitted it to the clerk for review. Judge Caldwell squinted. And what does this video show? The truth, Evelyn replied. The clerk inserted the drive, and a grainy but steady video appeared on the monitor. The protest unfolded below, people shouting, holding signs, police forming a barricade. There was Evelyn, her small frame weaving through the crowd, not yelling or raising fists, but waving her hands downward, urging calm. Back up, her voice rang out, clear and strong. Don't push. Stay calm. She stood between 2 officers and a group of teenagers with cardboard signs, her palms up, facing the crowd. Moments later, an officer lunged, another joined, yanking her arms back and cuffing her. She didn't resist or flinch. The room was silent. After 30 more seconds, the screen went black. Evelyn turned to Judge Caldwell. The officer's report said I stormed the line, encouraging resistance. But in that video, I was the only one trying to stop the panic from escalating. That video wasn't provided by the prosecution, though Officer Brantley knew about it. Marcus gave a copy to the department the day after the protest. He never heard back. Caldwell's jaw stiffened. Mr. Wells, did your office receive this footage? Nathan's face paled. I wasn't made aware, Your Honor. Evelyn didn't look at him. Marcus said he gave it to a plainclothes officer who told him it wasn't needed. I suppose they had their narrative set. A woman in the gallery whispered, Good Lord. The judge's gavel tapped once, reclaiming the moment. He looked at Evelyn, truly seeing her now. You retired in 2003? Yes, she said. After 20 years of seeing cases like this play out. He leaned forward. Why come back now? Her voice softened. Because I was tired of waiting for someone else to care. She stepped forward, not for drama, but because she couldn't stay still. I thought if I kept my head down in retirement, read the paper, volunteered, the world might sort itself out. But this system charging first, questioning latter isn't new. I've watched it since I was 30. It hasn't slowed down. She turned to the jury. I'm not here to put on a show. I'm here because if this courtroom judges me based on half-truths, What happens to the next person without credentials, a witness video, or the nerve to speak up? No one answered. Nathan sat still. Judge Caldwell leaned back, but Evelyn brought the room to a halt. Evelyn reached into her handbag, pulling out a folded document, a plain police transcript. "I'd like to read something into the record," she said. "From Officer Daniel Harper, present that afternoon but not called as a witness." Caldwell narrowed his eyes. "Was this submitted before today?" "No," Evelyn said. "I obtained it yesterday through a records request. It wasn't easy. I called in old favors." She smoothed the paper and read. "I arrived at approximately 6:15 p.m. I observed Evelyn Thompson moving through the crowd, repeatedly telling people to step back and remain peaceful. I did not witness her push, shout aggressively, or instigate. When I saw her taken into custody, I was surprised, as she was the only individual trying to calm tensions." She looked up, letting the silence settle. Nathan shifted, fumbling with a pen. "That officer wasn't part of the arresting team. His observation lacks credibility." "Then why wasn't his name on the witness list?" Evelyn countered. "You claim to seek facts, Mr. Wells, but facts contradicting your version are buried." The judge interjected. "Mr. Wells, can you confirm if Officer Harper was interviewed?" Nathan hesitated. "I need to check the intake file." "No need," Evelyn said. "I checked. He filed his statement the night of the arrest, signed, time-stamped, and ignored." She faced the jury. "This case isn't about disorder. It's about making an example of someone who didn't look threatening but didn't comply either. They didn't expect someone like me to speak. When I did, they call me disruptive. That word gets used when people are uncomfortable being challenged." A juror, a man in his 60s, rubbed his nose and looked down. The others stared at Evelyn, fully engaged. Judge Caldwell looked weary, not from her, but from the unraveling case. "Your Honor," Evelyn said softly, "I request all charges be dropped based on procedural misconduct, incomplete evidence, and suppressed testimony." Caldwell folded his hands, tapping one finger. The room waited. Evelyn didn't press. Finally, he spoke. "I'll take the request under advisement. We'll reconvene after a recess." Evelyn nodded, hands steady, no notes or co-counsel, just decades of experience and a belief that truth carried weight. When court reconvened, the atmosphere had shifted. The chuckles and whispers were gone. Judge Caldwell's gavel tapped lightly. Evelyn stood, not launching into legalese, but speaking plainly. "In 1987, Chicago, I was a public defender on West Madison Street. I defended a 17-year-old, Jamal Carter, arrested for matching the description of a shoplifter. He was walking home with a clarinet case. The officer said he looked nervous. You know what nervous means when you're young, black, and alone. The room held its breath. No stolen goods, no eyewitness, just the fact he ran when officers approached from an unmarked car. I spent 6 weeks fighting that case, found a time-stamped bus ticket in his pocket from minutes before the crime. Case dismissed, but Jamal missed his music audition and his scholarship." Evelyn's eyes met the jury's, not to guilt, but to ground them. "Cases like his stayed with me because they were common. Too common." She inhaled. "You think I'm here because I miss courtrooms? No. I'm here because too many like Jamal don't get a second shot. If I'd stayed quiet that day at the protest, someone else might be in this chair, someone who couldn't fight back." She faced Caldwell. "I'm tired of pretending silence saves us." Caldwell's hands were clasped, his face pale against the dark wood of the bench. She turned to Nathan. "You're young. Maybe you believe the system's fair until proven otherwise. But it's flawed until someone demands better. That's the job. If you're not ready to carry that burden, you're in the wrong courtroom." Nathan flushed, but didn't respond. Evelyn sat. Silence held. Caldwell rubbed his temple, then spoke. "I've reviewed the defense's evidence, the video, the transcript, the discrepancies. This case was mishandled. Moving forward would be unjust." His voice tightened. "Ms. Thompson, all charges are dismissed." No applause, just stunned silence. Evelyn closed her bag, stood, and nodded, not in victory, but respect. Outside, Riverside's noon sun was harsh. Evelyn descended the courthouse steps slowly, not from frailty, but because she savored moments that mattered. Reporters waited, cameras rolling, microphones extended. "Ms. Thompson, are you suing the city? Did you expect dismissal?" Are you an activist? She didn't answer, not avoiding the spotlight, but because her words had already been spoken where they counted. At the steps base, a group of teens and young adults waited, not reporters, but kids in hoodies and worn sneakers. Evelyn recognized Marcus Delgado, the student who filmed the video, holding his phone at his side, just watching. A girl, barely out of high school, stepped forward, eyes bright. "Ms. Thompson, I want to be a lawyer like you." Evelyn smiled faintly. "That was the first time I saw someone win in court like that," the girl, Aisha, said. "You didn't just fight, you taught. Remember what you saw," Evelyn said. "It won't always feel like victory. Most days, it's pushing a brick wall uphill with your hands, and no one claps. But you push anyway." Marcus spoke. "The system didn't expect someone like you to fight back." "I know," Evelyn said. "They counted on it." Another boy asked, "Can we learn from you? Shadow you or something?" Evelyn paused, seeing hope and restlessness in their eyes. "I don't do social media, but I can teach. Bring your questions, I'll bring my coffee." They laughed quietly. Marcus's eyes lit up. Behind them, Judge Caldwell stood at the top of the steps, no robe, just a blazer. He watched Evelyn turn the corner with the kids, her figure fading into the afternoon sun. Inside, Nathan sat at his desk, case files untouched. He picked up Evelyn's bar card, reading her name, that date, her lifetime of knowledge. Something shifted in him, not enough to change everything, but enough to make him pause next time. At a quiet diner on Main Street, Evelyn sat with the kids in a booth by the window, the same one she'd used years ago with nervous clients. The setting sun streaked across cracked leather seats. Marcus ordered coffee he didn't drink. Aisha, with a notebook full of scribbles, ordered iced tea. The others leaned in. Evelyn stirred her cup. "The first thing they teach in law school isn't the Constitution. It's how to read a case file without getting emotional, to separate facts from feelings, to argue without it getting under your skin." Aisha leaned forward. "Is that good?" "It's necessary," Evelyn said, "but dangerous. If you do it too long, you forget every file is a person who didn't ask to be there." She looked at each of them. "Don't forget the people." A boy, quiet until now, asked, "How do you keep going when no one listens?" Evelyn exhaled. "You keep going because sometimes someone is listening, and they'll only hear the truth if you say it out loud, even when your voice shakes." Aisha scribbled, but Evelyn shook her head. "Don't write it down. Live it. Make mistakes, but stay honest." Marcus asked, "You ever regret staying in the fight this long?" Evelyn traced her cup's rim. "Every time I lost a client who should have walked free, I regretted it. Every time an officer lied without blinking, every time a jury chose comfort over truth, I wondered if I was wasting time." She looked out the window. "But then I remember the ones who walked, who were heard, who called years later to say thank you. That's what matters." Aisha paid the check quietly. Outside, the kids hesitated, not wanting the night to end. Evelyn turned to them. "You want to change the system?" They nodded. "Don't just study challenge it. Ask better questions. Call out silence. Use your mind, your feet, your pen. When someone tells you to wait your turn, ask why they think it's not your turn already.